Hi Cardinals and Blue Jays. So today is Thursday, and for today's lesson, it was to draw a picture of your ideal zoo. If you were to make a zoo, what would your zoo look like? So we're going to do a writing lesson to go along with it, which I have over here. And I also thought we could read one of my favorite stories. It's called Alligator Baby, and it's by Robert Munsch, and there's quite a few zoo animals in this. So if you have this book at home, grab it quick. Maybe you can read along with us in your book. Point to the words as I'm reading it, and if not, just look up here and we'll read it together. All right, Alligator Baby by Robert Munsch. This is one of my favorite books. One night, Kristen's mother woke up and yelled, "A baby, a baby! I'm having a baby!" Kristen's father jumped up, zoomed around the room, got dressed, and grabbed Kristen's mother by the hand. They ran downstairs to the car and drove off really fast. Vroom! Unfortunately, they got lost. They didn't go to the hospital. They went to the zoo, but it was okay. Kristen's mother had a lovely baby. And then they drove home, knocked on their front door. Blam, 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 blam. Kristen opened the door, and there was her mother holding something all wrapped up. "Kristen," she said, "would you like to see your new baby brother?" "Oh, yes," said Kristen. So Kristen lifted up the bottom of the blanket. She saw a long green tail and said, "That's not a people tail." Kristen lifted up the middle of the blanket, saw a green claw and said, "That's not a people claw." Kristen lifted up the top of the blanket, saw a long green face with lots of teeth and said, "That's not a people face. That is not my baby brother." "Now, Kristen," said her mother, "don't be jealous." What do you think it is? What has a long green tail, green claws, and sharp teeth? Just then, the baby reached up and bit Kristen's mother on the nose. She yelled, "Ah!" Then the baby reached up and bit her father in the nose. He yelled, "Ah!" "That's not a people baby," said Kristen. "That's an alligator baby." "Goodness," said her mother, "we've got the wrong baby." Uh-oh. So Kristen put the alligator baby into the fish tank, and her mother and father drove back to the zoo. They came back in an hour and knocked on the door. Blam, 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 blam. Kristen opened the door, and her mother said, "Would you like to see your new baby brother?" "Oh, yes," said Kristen. Fingers crossed it's her brother. Uh-oh. Kristen lifted up the bottom of the blanket, saw a fishy tail, and said, "That's not a people tail." Kristen lifted up the middle of the blanket, saw a flipper, and said, "That's not a people flipper." Kristen lifted up the top of the blanket, saw a face with whiskers, and said, "That's not a people face. That is not my baby brother." "Now, Kristen," said her mother, "don't be jealous." Just then, the baby reached up with its flipper and flapped her father's face. Wah, 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 wah. He yelled, "Ah! It's a seal baby! We've got the wrong baby!" So Kristen put the seal baby in the bathtub, and her mother and father drove back to the zoo. Oh my goodness. They came back in an hour and knocked on the door. Blam, 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 blam. They said, "Kristen, would you like to see your new baby brother?" "Oh, yes," said Kristen. She lifted up the bottom of the blanket, saw a very hairy leg, and said, "That's not a people leg." She lifted up the middle of the blanket, saw a very hairy arm, and said, "That's not a people arm." She lifted up the top of the blanket, saw a very hairy face, and said, "That's not a people face. That is not my baby brother." "Now, Kristen," said her mother, "don't be jealous." "I see a banana, and I see little feet. What do you think it is?" Oh my goodness. Then the baby reached up with its feet and grabbed her mother's ear and her father's ear, and they both yelled, "Ah! It's a gorilla baby! We've got the wrong baby." "Let me do it," said Kristen. So her mother and father put the gorilla baby on the chandelier in the living room, and Kristen went off to the zoo on her bicycle. Do you think Kristen's going to be able to do it? I think she can do it. First, Kristen looked in the snake cage. No people babies. Then Kristen looked in the wombat cage. No people babies. Then Kristen looked in the elephant cage. No people babies. Then she stopped and listened. From far away she heard, wah, 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 wah. That's more like it, said Kristen. She followed the sound. It was coming from the gorilla cage. Kristen looked at the mommy gorilla and said, give me my baby brother. The gorilla jumped away and wouldn't give the baby back at all. Uh-oh. Then the people baby reached up and bit the gorilla on the nose, and the gorilla yelled, ah! And handed the baby back to Kristen. Kristen jumped on her bicycle and pedaled home. Kristen knocked on the door. Blam, 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 blam. When her parents opened to see it, she said, would you like to see your new baby? Kristen's mother lifted up the bottom of the blanket and said, look, people legs. She lifted up the middle of the blanket and said, look, people hands. She lifted up the top of the blanket and said, look, a people face. Kristen's mother picked up the baby and gave it a big hug. Her father took the baby and gave it a big hug. And her mother said, Kristen, Kristen, you got the baby back. Good for you. But what are we going to do with all these other babies, yelled Kristen's father. There's a seal baby in the bathtub, an alligator baby in the fish tank, and a gorilla baby hanging from the chandelier. We should take them back to the zoo. But Kristen looked out the window and said, I don't think we're going to have to do anything at all. Uh-oh, what zone are they in? Look at their faces. They're in the red zone. Oh, and everything was okay until Kristen's mother had twins. Back in the green zone because they have their babies back. Now, I don't know about you, but that is a super silly but super funny story. I really like that one. So for our writing, I thought you could do anything that you want to do with zoo animals. So I know on your calendar it said to draw a map of your own zoo. So you can do that. Or I thought if you don't feel like maybe drawing a map, you could do your favorite zoo animals. You could draw a picture of yourself at the zoo with your family. You could draw what you love to visit at the zoo. So for me, because the Cardinals know Mrs. Starbird isn't the best artist, so I did my best. I did my best work. So for mine, I did, on my journal sheet, I did all my favorite animals to see at the zoo. So I have my rating sheet here, and the first thing I did was write my name. Check. That's one thing off of our writing criteria that I can check off. The next thing I did is I did detailed pictures of all my animals. And if you notice, there's writing beside my animals. So that means I labeled it. So that's something that we want our friends to do, if you can, is to try and label your picture, because that's another check off our writing criteria. And that shows us that you're going above and beyond. So I did, and I really tried to stretch out all my sounds. And I worked my hardest all by myself to do that. So this is my lion. L-I-N. Let's try and stretch that out. L-I-N. Lion. And then over here I have a monkey. I love seeing the monkeys at the zoo. So I wrote M-on-K-E. Monkey. And the Cardinals, and I know the Blue Jays too, are penguin experts. And I love seeing the penguins at the zoo. I love watching them swim and dive off. I think that's, off their rocks, I think that's really fun. So P-E-N-G-N. Penguin. And then I also love to see the bears at the zoo. What I notice about the bears at the zoo is they always have a big ball, and they're always jumping on it and playing around with it with the other bears in the area with them, which is really cool. And for bear, I did B-E-R, bear. So I have my name, I have my detailed pictures, I've done my label. Now it's time that I did my sentence. So with the sentence, there's some things that we need to keep in mind. If we hear a popcorn word, we should look at our popcorn list that we've sent home and see if you can find it, and try and write out the popcorn word if you can. Another thing that I did is I left finger spaces in between all my words. And I also stretched out all my letters, just like I did with my labeling. So now when I'm reading to it, I'm going to use my pointer finger. I'm going to point as I read. I love the, so you can see that I wrote the popcorn word, the zoo. My favorite animals are lions, monkeys, bears, and penguins. So let's go over that again. Let's make sure we did all of our success criteria. I wrote my name. I drew a detailed picture. I tried to use as many colors as I could. I labeled it. I wrote my sentence. I wrote 2 sentences, so hopefully some of our SKs can try and do that too. Try and go above and beyond and do 2 sentences if you can. And even JKs too if you want to challenge yourself. So I did my sentences. I made sure that my sentence matches my picture so that we know that it matches. They go together like peanut butter and jelly. And then I made sure to do finger spaces so that we know when we're starting a new word. And I also stretched out all my letters to try and get all those tricky sounds. And lastly, I used my popcorn words when I heard them pop up. Okay, so remember, for this writing, we just want you to do whatever you feel is best for you. So if you want to do a map of your zoo, I would love to see a map. I can't wait to see the creativity you guys would come up with. If you want to draw your favorite animals like I did, perfect. You can do that as well. If you want to draw a picture of yourself at the zoo with your family or with grandparents or with friends, perfect. If you want to draw your favorite exhibit to see at the zoo, like if you love seeing the alligators, if you love going into the pavilion to see the butterflies, whatever you guys want to do, it's up to you. So good luck. We can't wait to see all your posts on Seesaw, and I'll be responding to all your pictures when they come through. So thanks guys, have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Bye.